myself Vaibhav. In today's session, we are seeing the USD JPY consolidating closer to the 104 level after last night's spurts from the level closer to 103.7. In yesterday's session, I had talked about the possibility of the breakout, and in yesterday's session, my view was a bit bearish, but that didn't really unfold, and we saw the sharp move on the higher side, and that has changed the technical perspective along with the fact that treasury yields are also trading higher for the day. There is a gain of almost 3 basis points, and we have the big development for the day, which is the Treasury Secretary Miss Janet Yellen's confirmation hearing in the United States Senate, in which she is likely to stress upon the need for the big stimulus measures, and she will try to allay the fears of US policymakers regarding the rising debt balloon. And as a result of that, I think the market focus is likely to turn to the growth expectations and the possible reflation happening. And as a result of that, I think the fundamental factors are also turning conducive for the weakness in the JPY, and as a result of that, we might see some gains in USD JPY moving ahead. On the data rocket, there was one important data release coming in for the euro area. That was the ZEW Economic Sentiment Index data. At the same time, we also got the Germany's data point, and both these data points are pointing to the improving economic sentiments in the euro area. And for the Germany, the growth is fairly sharp, and that is happening because investors' morale is improving on the back of COVID vaccination, and the expectations are rising that by the second quarter, as I have said in the prior session also, by the second quarter we are likely to see some sort of normalcy being restored in the euro area. Not totally normal, but still the hopes are high. So that is helping the sentiment improvement on the economic front. Now moving on to the technical outlook, we will first see the USD JPY's technical outlook, and then we will also take a look on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So let's get started for the USD JPY's technical outlook. This is the daily time frame chart, and this big jump which I am talking about is getting the USD JPY closer to its resistance zone. Here we have this downward trend line coming into play, and in prior session we had seen it pushing the USD JPY lower, but on the lower side it has found support closer to these EMA lines, and these 10 and 20 EMA lines have indeed provided valuable support and have contained the USD JPY decline just little above the 103.5 level. And now that we are seeing fresh buying momentum, I think the possibility of the breakout on the higher side is improving. And if we want to capitalize on these changing scenarios, I think we can take into account these regression curve and the pivot point series. Both these technical indicators are pointing to the bullish trajectory for the USD JPY. In yesterday's session, the USD JPY was trading closer to the central pivot point, and a break on the lower side was expected, but that didn't really come true. And if any of you had gone in for that trade, I think it might have ended in loss with the stop loss being hit. Now that the stop loss has been hit in yesterday's session, I would like to give up on that idea of a possible bearish move in USD JPY, and rather focus on the emerging scenario where I feel the possibility is a lot higher for the further move toward this first resistance and even beyond that. So that's why I have titled the session as the USD JPY could rise to 104.5, and that is going to be our immediate target in today's session itself. So if you want to figure out the possible entry and exit point, I think this confluence zone of this price marker and this 200 SMA is good enough. In prior session, we had seen this price level acting as the near-term resistance, and it had pushed the USD price momentum lower. Now, in yesterday's session, we saw this fresh break on the higher side, and that has helped us in changing our outlook. And my feeling is that as long as the USD is holding well above this confidence zone of three key SMAs, the 50, 100, and 200 SMA, we can be fairly hopeful of continuation of this bullish tendency, and as a result of that, the entry point anywhere in the price band of 103.9 to 104 should be good enough, while keeping the stop loss anywhere closer to 103.7 or 103.8 depending on how you get your entry point. 20-25 pips stop loss should be good enough, where we are targeting almost 50 pips on the higher side, as our target is going to be above the prior swing high, which is there around 4.40. Now moving on to the equity front. In equity segment, our anticipation is holding well. In last session also, I had talked about the possible entry points closer to the 31,000 levels for the possible short sell trades, and if any of you had gone in for the trade, I think by now you might be sitting in profit. So here, this is the session in which we are expecting the continuation of that trade, and also I will talk about the possible re-entry if any of you had missed out on the price entry till now. So here we have this resistance zone in play, the first resistance of this month's pivot point series around 31,000, and this is the price zone which has kept the Dow Jones Industrial Average move on the higher side. And in today's session also, we saw this sharp deceleration after getting closer to this resistance zone. And if we look at the regression curve, it is still pointing to the upper side, but the price action has moved in the lower band. And as I have said in yesterday's session, in due course of time, the flattening of the regression curve is expected, and then we can expect this correction move to even extend toward the central pivot point of this month's pivot point series. So if we want to figure out the entry and exit points for today's session, I think we will have to rely on this confluence zone of 100 and 200 SMA, which is there just little below the 31,000 mark. So in today's session, we can target the entry point anywhere in the price band of 30,950 to 31,000, while keeping the stop loss just little above the day's high. The price of around 31,150 should be good enough. That will entail the risk of around 200 points, and on the lower side, we will be targeting 400 to 500 points. So the immediate target will work out around 30,500, just thereabout, so that our risk reward ratio is also in line with the conservative requirement of 1:2. And if we consider this price formation, where we have seen the Dow Jones Industrial Average struggling closer to the resistance zone, and now that in today's session also we have seen this sharp deceleration after getting closer to the resistance zone, I feel the likelihood is fairly high for our trade ending in profit. But of course, it is never certain, so that's the reason why we keep the stop loss and then the target price also. So that's it from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, you can write to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Before I sign off, I would also like to remind of the risk associated with trading in the financial instrument, and one should be careful while using the information provided. Have a fabulous day ahead. Thank you all for joining in. Do subscribe to the Decoscopy webinar channel. Goodbye.